You are Locked On Wolves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Ooh, Wolves come up just short on the final play versus the Grizz despite scoring 125. Final score, 125-127. What's going on? Back in the lab, back at it. Another T-Wolves postcast right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. Your team every day. Jack Borman with me, as always. Give him a follow at JRBorman13. Lots to get into, Jack, including, multiple missed opportunities on the glass and in the turnover department, plus an offensive burst, just a masterclass for DDV and JMac you could put in that category as well. But first, quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by Game Time. Game Time, download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. All right, man, so Wolves coming in on this one, 3 straight wins, looking for number 4 in a row versus a tough, scrappy Memphis team that, you mentioned it in the last show. This team's had the worst injury luck in the league, but despite that, find themselves 3rd in the West, and for a good reason. I mean, we got a up-close and personal look on just why they have been so scrappy. It felt like they won all the 50-50 balls tonight. They stole the show, really, on the offensive glass and in the turnover department. We'll get into that later. They even hit some buzzer beaters to close out the first and second quarter. Looking back in a 2-point game, boy, wish you could have either of those back. So despite the Wolves shooting, nearly 57% from the floor, 40% from 3, they come up short on the final play. They drop a tight one, almost 25 lead changes in all. That just tells you how back and forth this one went. But 127-125, that's your final. Wolves dropped to 20-18 on the year. DDV season high, 27 points. JMac with 21. Let's just start like we did last show, big picture, because they're all worth the same in the end, right? It's only one game. But how tough is this one going to be to watch back for this team, Jack, knowing how many balls bounced the other way tonight to lose by just 2 points?
Yeah, you nailed it. Certainly a game where you can look at a lot of different things and wish that, you had it back if you're the Timberwolves. And again, it's what Memphis does really, really well is they do an incredible job of winning the total shots battle. Right. And there's definitely ways that you can hold opponents to take less shots. Obviously, if you're able to turn them over more, and you're going to take more shots if you get second chances. And that's certainly what happened tonight. Overall in this game, Minnesota had 19 turnovers for 27 Memphis Grizzlies points. And Memphis had 21 offensive rebounds for 25 second chance points. So 52 of the 127 Grizzlies points came off of turnovers or on second chances, which are, things that the Wolves obviously are in control of. You're certainly, Memphis is a team that does very, very well on second chances and in turning their opponents over and converting those into points on the other end of the floor. Just in terms of points off of turnovers, Memphis 19.1 per game this season. That's 8th in the league. And then their second chance offense, 17.1 points per game. That's 2nd in the league. So they had a better night than average on both in both of those areas. And certainly you would expect that the Timberwolves would turn the ball over and that Memphis would be able to convert on those. But what was really disappointing is that the Wolves giving up 21 offensive rebounds, considering that was probably number 1 on the scouting report coming into this game, and you get only 4 rebounds from Rudy Gobert. I know that Rudy Gobert was challenging a ton of different shots in there, but there were so many offensive rebounds that Zach Edey got that Rudy Gobert just couldn't really do enough to get him out of the way, which was certainly unfortunate. I mean, Randall had 8 rebounds. McDaniels had 6 rebounds. Dante DiVincenzo had a double-double. He had 10 rebounds, a game high 10 rebounds for Dante. So again, it's just you've got to find ways to close out possessions with stops. Memphis, by my count, had 3 possessions tonight with at least 3 offensive rebounds on 1 possession, which is about as bad as it gets. And 2 of those resulted in Memphis scores, and one of them resulted in a turnover. The Wolves got a little lucky with a bad pass, but certainly when your opponent takes 25 more shots than you do, Memphis took 108 shots, the Wolves only took 83. That's exactly how you lose a game when you put up 125 points, shoot 73% from 2, 41% from three, and score 60 points in the paint. I mean, if a team does those four things in an NBA game, it's almost impossible to lose unless you give the ball away as much as the Timberwolves did tonight. So that was certainly a bummer, especially considering the way that the Timberwolves played defense on Ja Morant for most of this game. We'll get into that a little bit later. But starting with a positive, I think we'll kind of work our way back into the negatives and what went wrong. But Donte DiVincenzo was awesome in this game. And this felt like a cherry on top of what's been an awesome 2-3 weeks for him, looking a lot more like the Knicks version of Donte DiVincenzo that we saw become, one of the most coveted role players in the entire league, and really become, kind of a souped up star role player that really felt more like a second or third option for the Knicks last season. And he had a season high 27 points tonight, made 9 of his 14 shots, 6 of 11 from beyond the arc, which was obviously great to see. Had a couple of really nasty step back threes after losing Ja Morant on the dribble, and did a great job, I thought, of just attacking Ja Morant right away at the start of each half. He created the first 10 points of the first half, and then scored the first 9 points of the second half. So the way that he was able to just kind of help the Wolves offense just kind of get off to a good start in both halves, I thought was really important. And then when he's got a confident stroke to his shot, anything can happen. And you saw exactly why he was such an important piece coming back for the Wolves in that trade, and why they held out to be able to get a guy like him, because you saw this version of DiVincenzo much more than you saw the DiVincenzo that we saw at the beginning of the season. And just the way that he was able to carry the offense on a night that Anthony Edwards did not have it, and frankly was pretty embarrassing, the effort that Anthony Edwards put forth in this game. We'll get into that.
Let me real quick. Can I ask you about the final possession, or really like the final 2 minutes? Because they were up 4 with 1:41 left. I think DDV had a nice assist to Rudy for a layup. So they're up 4 with 1:41 left. What stuck out, I guess, to you from there most? And then the final possession, I see a lot of people, rightfully so, talking about in the chat. DDV, like you just said, had the hot hand. Why not try to drop a play for DDV? Just the last 141, up 4, and then the last possession specifically. Just what stuck out to you as a elite NBA mind?
Yeah, I think on the last possession, the last 2 possessions of the game, really, it was just overly trying to force the ball in Anthony Edwards' hands. And Ant told everybody in the arena, everybody that was watching that game, that he had no interest in making an impact on the offensive end for the first 10 minutes of that, of that fourth quarter. He took one shot and he just kind of stood there. Jalen Wells was face guarding him 40 feet away from the basket the whole entire game, pretty much. But on that possession where Randall turned it over with 45 seconds left, if you go back and watch that, obviously you want Julius Randle to be able to do something better than what he did, but Jaren Jackson Jr. is an awesome defensive player, and going against him one-on-one over and over again, the fact that he didn't turn it over more than the 3 times or 4 times he turned it over was kind of incredible. But if you go back and watch that possession, Ant is standing in the jump circle at half court while Jalen Wells is face guarding him. He makes zero effort to go get the ball. And then Randall turns it over, and then we almost get a turnover on that next possession where you inbound the ball to Gobert. Look, I love Rudy. I think Rudy's a phenomenal player. He does so many good things for you, especially in the offensive end when he can create so much space with his screens. But I have no idea why he was out there on that final possession where you want as much space as you possibly can for Anthony Edwards. I don't know why someone like Naz Reid or Jaden McDaniels, just one of the 2 guys, was not in there, considering how important they were for the Timberwolves offensively, and that you could get to a 5-out look. If you're going to get the ball to Ant anyways, you want to get the ball to Ant with as much spacing as you can. And I think that, it just opens up an opportunity for Memphis to be able to blitz or put 2 on the ball. And then if you pass the ball to Rudy, you're really putting the ball in Rudy Gobert's hands at the end of the game on the roll. I don't necessarily know that you want that. It's fine throughout the course of a game, but in a possession with that much magnitude, I think just trying to get as much spacing out there as possible is important, and was a misfire there from Finch. And then that last play, I don't know why you didn't just have Randall take a step back 3 or something like that. Jaren Jackson was giving him plenty of space, and he had a pretty clean look at a shot if he wanted it, and they just forced the ball into Ant's hands when Ant took 1 shot the first 10 and a half, 11 minutes of that quarter, and then took the final 2 shots of the game with, in the last 7 seconds of the game. So just I get that Ant's your star player, and I get that you want to live and die with him, but he just did not have it tonight. And I would have liked to see the Timberwolves try to do something a little bit different, maybe use him as a decoy on the final possession of the game to try to get a cleaner look for someone like Dante or Julius, frankly, just because those two guys really played well for the majority of the night and did a lot of work on the offensive end that Anthony Edwards, again, just showed no interest in doing. So we can get into that defense that they played on him too, but really quickly, just Jaden McDaniels, I think deserves.
Let's save J Mac for segment 2. Let me just squeeze in this ad break. Yeah, again, a masterclass performance by DDV, which you already touched on, but J Mac will touch on that as well. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by FanDuel. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Right now, FanDuel is giving you a chance at a huge return, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you win your first $5 wager. When you get the hunch in the middle of the game, you can go check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. Again, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you win your first $5 bet. Go check it all out over at FanDuel.com. Get on some NBA future action while you're there, and MVP odds sitting at 18-1. It's all sitting up over at FanDuel.com. Again, check it all out over at FanDuel.com and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you win your first $5 wager. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Okay, Jack, before we get into just a little bit more on DDV, J-Mac, again, he had a masterclass game, just the offense. Let me kind of pick up where we left off just real quick. Why are the Wolves struggling closing out some of these games? Like last year, it felt like all the close games, they just found a way to come out on top. Is it like an Ant Julius issue, 2 ball handlers trying to do too much? What is it? What are you seeing, I guess, this year so far in the early goings, in these final few minutes with so many missed opportunities and just not having that closeout ability, if you will?
Yeah, I think part of it is that, it's just tough because the Wolves don't have a super defined closing lineup. Like last season, they had a pretty defined closing lineup. They knew what they were trying to do. And when you play those same guys at the end of the game and you kind of play the same schemes on both ends of the floor, it's at least a little bit easier to trust and know what you're trying to get to. And I just think that there was a little bit more spacing out there at the end of games with Cat in there for sure, which obviously matters. And Mike Conley was certainly healthier, and there's a whole myriad of factors. But I think also part of it is that Anthony Edwards is taking a step back. I mean, if you look at clutch numbers this season, he's been a pretty inefficient clutch time player this season, where he was pretty darn good last season and was absolutely amazing in the playoffs. And so I think that is certainly part of it. And I also, the Timberwolves rebounding too in clutch time situations hasn't been as good as it was last season, or at least it feels that way. I haven't looked at any of the numbers to be able to, quantify that with a bullet, but that's also been a problem. I think, again, when you can get stops in the clutch, you got to take them, and not being able to close out some of those possessions with rebounds is really tough, especially against a team like Memphis, who is really going to be active on the glass. But in this game specifically, like, you got to shake Ja Morant's hand, man. He looked pretty disinterested for most of this game as well. I mean, he started 3 of 17 before he made those final 2 shots of the game. And neither of those shots were very easy shots for him to knock down. Neither was that Desmond Bane, and one that, that tied the game, a few possessions earlier than that. So, around 4 minutes to go. So, I mean, you just got to credit Memphis for making some of these tough shots. And then the Timberwolves as a whole, I mean, what's been tough is they've generated a lot of good shots in some of these fourth quarters, and they just haven't been able to knock them down. The Timberwolves started 1 of 8 in the fourth quarter tonight, 1 of 7 from 3, then score 3 straight times after that. And then, only come up with 3 or 4 more made field goals for the final 4 or 5 minutes of this game, which is a little bit of a bummer. And again, a lot of that, it makes it a lot tougher when your best player is pretty checked out, or at least looks like he's been pretty checked out mentally by a rookie that just played really hard.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't be enough to take you out of a game.
No.
And just really quickly, like the Timberwolves in the first half and for parts of the second half too, did way more of running Ant off of pin down actions and getting him in curl actions where he caught the ball on the move with a head of steam going towards the basket to try to displace Jalen Wells a little bit and make it easier for Ant to get into the paint and score and kick it out to others. And for stretches of this game, I thought that he did an okay job of at least creating some good shots for other players. But he took 7 shots in that first quarter, and then 1 shot in the third quarter, 1 shot in the second quarter, 2 shots in the third quarter, and 3 shots in the fourth. I mean, you just need more from Ant in terms of his activity level. And I thought there were way too many possessions. If you go back and watch that he was just standing around, didn't make any effort to try to get into the play at all. And when you have somebody of Ant's gravity and magnitude that's doing that, I just think it sets a tough tone. And I think, frankly, like it would have been a much bigger factor in this game if Jaden McDaniels doesn't have the game that he does, and Dante doesn't have the game that he does, for the two of them to be the 2 leading scorers in this game, and the Timberwolves to have, arguably their most efficient and best scoring night of the season.
Yeah.
I think is pretty remarkable. But yeah,
did the technical, like, I don't know, knock him down a peg, or what happened there? First of all, weird technical, right? By the way, he's got 9 techs already.
Was that tech on Ant? I thought it was on the bench.
Oh, maybe. The broadcast talked about that it was on Ant, so almost positive it was on Ant. Yeah, because Jim Pete and Michael Grady were talking about it was on Ant because it was his ninth tech. So all he did was like flex. So I don't know, maybe it's a bench thing, but you gotta single out one guy at the end of the day when you're at the judges' scorer table. I don't know, but yeah, they were talking about it did not look like a lot. I mean, it didn't warrant. I mean, yeah, he got teed up for flexing. I forget what team that was earlier this year. Maybe you can pull it off the top of your head, but I didn't look like anything that warranted a tech for anybody.
Yeah, I don't think that's a fair excuse for the way that he played at all in this game. But yeah, I mean, the 2 guys that carried the load for the Wolves, we talked about Dante already, but Jaden McDaniels, I thought this was the best game he's had all season. It was the second game this season of at least 21 or of at least 20 points. Had 21 on 9 of 12 shooting, 3 of 4 from 3. Was really important in the catch and shoot game. I think two of those 3 were created from Ant on the drive, which was nice. 6 boards, 3 steals, 2 blocks. One of them was a great chase down block that he had. And 2 of those steals, I think, resulted in him just scoring right away on the other end of the floor, which was awesome to see. And he actually left this game early in the first quarter due to foul trouble around the 8-minute mark. And still found a way to play 30 minutes in this game and picked up 0 fouls the rest of the game. Was just a complete game record, whether he's guarding Ja or Desmond Bane. And, it showed exactly why this team threw a huge bag of money at him. Because when he's got it going in all the ways that he can be impactful, he's really added the rebounding this year more than anything. But when his defensive playmaking, he can mix that with, some catch and shoot stuff. But most of his scoring came in transition or off of cutting. And that's stuff that should be there all the time, independent of whether or not his 3-point shot is falling. And he did a great job last season cutting off of Karl Anthony Towns. And you look at the 2-man lineups, his best 2-man pairing was by far Karl Anthony Towns. And hopefully now, he's kind of developing a little bit of a synergy, cutting off of Julius Randle when Julius Randle is driving and getting deep into the paint. And I think that's something that's really important as well, because defenses are kind of ball hawking when Randall puts the ball on the deck and then wants to hold it a little bit. So for guys like Jaden and Rudy to be able to cut off of him is really important. Is really important. And then on the other end of the floor, Jaden was tremendous on Ja. We talked about he was
fantastic.
3 of 17, held Ja to 3 of 17 from the floor, forced Ja really to just kind of hang out in the corner and had 4 3-point attempts. He missed all of them. And then, when Ja did drive, a lot of times he had to make these crazy tough kick out passes and did turn the ball over 5 times. So as far as Jaden McDaniels, you couldn't ask any more from him tonight. And, Jalen Wells kind of played the same role on the other end for Memphis, holding Ant to just 15 points on 12 shots. It was 0 of 4 from 3. He had 6 assists, but he had 6 turnovers. And a lot of those turnovers were pretty bad. And a few of them we just, lost his dribble, was being too casual with the ball, or just airmailing a cross-court pass. And it just did not look like he really had a strong desire to do much of anything on the offensive end of the floor. And I think for him, if other teams are watching what it takes to take Ant out of the game, of just having a guy really get up in his grill and be there the whole entire time for all, 40 minutes that Ant's going to be on the floor, he's got to figure out a way to become more impactful without the ball in his hands, as cutter or screener or whatever the case may be. Or the Timberwolves need to come up with more actions where Ant's off the ball and they can use him as a decoy to get Dante or Jaden or Nas or whomever it is clean looks, or to just get Ant in scoring situations or force switches, because right now this team is not really doing a whole lot of that. And I think some of Ant's one-on-one isolation scoring is lifting him above, some of that adversity. But tonight was not one of those games. And I think the more that they can do to really get Ant the ball or weaponize, his threat as a scorer to open up things for other people would be great.
10 turnovers between Ant and Julius. And again, you mentioned it. Julius did have a great game until that turnover right at the end. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the bench, how the bench kind of kept him in this one. Plus, let's talk about a quick sneak peek at the Wizards game. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode also brought to us by BetterHelp. When your schedule gets packed with work projects and more, it's so easy to let your priorities start to slip, even when we know what makes us happy. But when you feel like you got no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy, they're more important than ever. If you've been thinking about starting therapy, time to give BetterHelp a try. Entirely online and designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited for your schedule. So simple. All you got to do, you fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched up with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Go visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon. You're getting 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Talk to me about the bench tonight, because, Nas and Na, I guess specifically, they kind of felt like the glue during certain stretches of that game. They kind of felt like the glue and kind of kept them in this one, right?
Yeah, no question about it. I think, we'll start with Randall. I think just the way that he was able to create shots for other people was really, really important. And I thought that he kind of got everybody around him going. He helped get Nikhil going. He helped get Nas going. He helped get Dante going. No question about it. And I think when you have, a hub that's just getting into the middle of the floor and just throwing dimes and darts all over the floor to create open shots for other people is really, really important. And so Randall deserves a ton of credit. I thought the shot selection in this game was really good. I really loved the way that he attacked Jaren Jackson, and the way that he then used the threat of that to create open shots for other people, and created there were several opportunities where he could have taken an open shot but instead kicked it to the corner, and that's when you got guys like Naz Reid going. And so I thought that Randall set a really good unselfish tone that the bench really followed through with and played well for the most part. I mean, Nas was tremendous at 19 of the 32 bench points. And I thought Nikhil had an awesome first half. No question about it. And Nikhil I think he had 4 dimes and no turnovers in that first half. And certainly he's 1 of 7 from 3, and I think missed 3 or 4 threes in the fourth quarter that were all pretty wide open. But Nikhil did a ton of really good stuff, had a highlight reel, left-handed, one-handed.
Yeah, that was great.
Pass to Ant that resulted in a bucket inside, and did some really nice things off the dribble to create some shots for himself, and then get into the lane and create some kick out passes. So I think Na played a lot better than what maybe you'd see looking at the box score. I mean, 6 assists for him is really strong, and the Timberwolves as a whole had 4 guys with at least 6 assists, and none of and that was really a great sign to see too. It was just unfortunate that they had too many just careless moments with the basketball that resulted in Memphis going the other way. But I mean, Memphis has the number 1 scoring bench in the league, 47 points a game. So for Memphis to only score 40 off the bench is doing decent work for them, because they play an 11-man rotation. You saw that tonight, playing 6 guys off the bench with Jay Huff caboosing it at 8 minutes a game there. But it was just unfortunate that Nas 7 of 10 from the floor, everyone else just 5 of 15 and 2 of 10 from 3. Mike Conley, this wasn't a great matchup for Mike necessarily, considering just some of the more physical downhill guards that Memphis had, and considering how well Dante and Na were playing in the first half, I thought those two guys were the Timberwolves' two best players, arguably, in the first half. So I think that also contributed to Mike not playing quite as many minutes tonight. And then Josh Minott. There was a tweet that got sent out from Josh Minott's Twitter account early in the third quarter that quote tweeted a clip of him playing defense, basically being complimentary of Josh Minott's defense, an analysis clip. And the tweet from Josh Minott's Twitter account just was a quote tweet of that said #defense. So read into that what you may. I don't know if Josh sent that or if, someone that has access to his account tweeted that, but he played just 2 minutes. In this one, Rich was a little curious. I believe they were the last 2 minutes of the first quarter that he played. Yeah, the last 2 minutes of the first quarter, and then didn't come back the rest of this game. Just, I think part of it was in nature that Julius and Nas were both playing phenomenal basketball, as were Nikhil and Dante. So if you're not going to be able to chip into any of those guys' minutes, and Jaden's having his best game of the season, there's just not a lot there for him. And so I actually didn't really mind that he didn't come back. I thought, again, that so many of the Timberwolves played so well in this game. Like Rudy Gobert was pretty good in this game outside of his rebounding. He had 12 points, was really more of a factor in that third quarter when he had 3 scores in pick and roll game with Ant throwing a nice one to him. And then Mike had 2 really nice lobs to him in the pick and roll game as well. And then had that awesome lob dunk finish from Dante in the fourth quarter, and had 4 assists too, which was nice to see, highlighted by maybe one of the craziest over the head passes that we've seen from a guy like Gobert. There were 2 over the head no look passes on the same possession. First one was from Dante, and then the second one was from Rudy. I thought I was laughing my butt off on Media Row at what was going on, which was fun to see. But Rudy really battled, especially in the offensive glass. I thought there were a lot of possessions that he just kind of tapped the ball and made it a loose ball that the Wolves were able to come away with. And so it was nice to see that. And he was a nice outlet for Randall too. I thought Randall had 8 assists tonight. He probably should have had closer to 12 or 13 with how many wide open shots he created. And you just want to look at just high level passes that created a really good shot opportunity or created a hockey assist opportunity. There were probably 15 or 20 of those from Randall tonight. I thought it was, until that last turnover that he had, I thought it was comfortably one of the 2 or 3 best games he's had as a Wolf. Even though Jaren Jackson had 33 points on 24 shots, a decent number of those points came on second chances where it wasn't really the guy guarding him. It wasn't really his fault necessarily. And I thought Randall's physicality with Jaren Jackson was really good. And I thought he made a lot of shots difficult for Jaren Jackson. And I've got no complaints with the way that Randall played defense tonight. I thought it was a really complete game for him. And 18 points on 13 shots. Again, you'd like to probably see Randall take a few more shots, but there were plenty of times when he could have shot and passed up a good shot to get a great shot. And so he deserves a ton of credit for that. And, it was just a bummer. So many Timberwolves players played well tonight. Really, the only guy that played significant minutes for the Timberwolves in this game that did not play well was Ant, I thought.
Yeah.
And they were still right there. But again, taking it all full circle, it's just unfortunate that the Timberwolves put forth their best offensive game of the year by far, for my money. 56, 41 shooting splits from the game and from 3. Score 125 points. They were previously 6-0, and they scored at least 115 points in a game this season. Dropped one tonight, but again, it's just the turnovers. 19 for 27 points for Memphis, and then offensive rebounds. 21 offensive rebounds for 25 Memphis second chance points. 52 points off turnovers and second chance points combined just makes it really, really tough. And it was a bummer because
52 points off turnovers.
52 points off turnovers plus second chance points.
Plus second chance. Got it. Yeah.
So it's just kind of
in a 2-point game, Jack. In a 2-point game. I mean, if I would have told you they would have put up 125 tonight, you said, oh, okay, 9 out of 10. 10 times we're winning, right?
If you put up 125 and John Moran has 12 points on 5 of 19 shooting with 6 turnovers, yeah.
So what do you want to see? Wizards on deck Monday night. On paper, looks like an easy dub. Hopefully you're not going to tell me there's any potential for a trap game. But what are you looking for for them to like bounce back, for them to fix the most, maybe build off of from this game? 60 seconds left. What kind of matchup scouting report? What do you want to see?
Hey, Bilal Coulibaly is one of the best on-ball defenders in the NBA, and he's going to play really hard against Ant. And I want to see Ant respond with a really strong game. I want to see 30-plus points from Ant, 5 boards, 5 assists, taking care of the ball, being really decisive. And I want to see Julius Randle go right at Kyle Kuzma. Kyle Kuzma is an awful defender, and Julius Randle, this should be a game where he can go right through his chest, get into the paint, and score. I think Gobert is going to have his hands full with Valanciunas. He's one of the most physical centers in the NBA. So I think Randle and McDaniels and DiVincenzo, all those guys are going to have to get in and help Gobert rebound. And so I think if the team can really crash the glass and keep Washington off, Valanciunas especially off the backboard, and then just move without the ball and pass the ball as well as they did for the most part tonight. I think you'll see the Timberwolves have a pretty easy game, because this is one of the more impressive tank jobs we've seen from quite a while. By the
is it going to take a injury or maybe multiple injuries, guys getting dinged up later the season goes on, to see my guy Terrence Shannon Jr.? It sounded like he went off down in Iowa, down in the G League.
He had 47. He had like 42 or 47.
Love it.
Again, if there's a button that you're going to push, if someone like Nah or Dante misses a game, or even Ant misses a game, I think he's a guy that should fill in, because I think his downhill attacking nature, his athleticism, the way he wants to get out and run in transition, do a lot of things that the Timberwolves need more of. So yeah, I think it unfortunately might take an injury, but again, like, I think he's probably of all the guys that are down there, between Jalen Clark and Leonard Miller and even Rob Dillingham. I think TJ Shannon might be the most NBA ready guy to come in.
Complete high floor guy, NBA ready for sure. Yeah, still super excited about him. All right, Wolves lose on the final possession. Final versus the Grizz, 127-125. 20-18 now. They dropped 2 on the year. As always, though, huge shout out to all you guys, all the everydayers out there that always make us your first listen. All you guys coming in the chat with us from game to game, venting with us. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. Close to 9,000 subscribers. Want to get to 10 by the end of the season. Go follow Jack at JR Borman 13 on X. He's live from the Target Center almost every home game. Again, Wizards up next Monday night, 6 p.m. tip-off. We'll catch you right here, same time, same place. But until then, signing out.